Welcome back to the Wickedly Branded podcast. I am Beverly Cornell, and today we're walking through Chapter 4 of Marketing for Entrepreneurs, the quick guide to sparking your marketing. This chapter is called Get Seen by Being You. And I want to begin in a very familiar place. It should feel very familiar to most of the people who are listening. This is a moment that happens for so many capable, thoughtful women, I think, in business. The strategy is super clear. The offer, I believe, works. The results are real. And yet the idea of showing up publicly in front of the camera like this carries weight. You can talk about your clients with ease. You can design a brilliant plan for them, and you can hold space in a room with confidence. But then the camera turns towards you and something in you shifts. For a long time, I poured my energy into the work itself. The strategy was clear. The systems were excellent. The outcomes were strong. The brands we built for clients felt aligned and intentional. And I trusted that quality would carry the rest. What I began to notice over time was something really subtle. Clients were responding to the work, and they were also responding to the person behind it. They would reference things like I had shared in passing, a story or a phrase, a small moment from my own business. They remembered how I said something. They remembered how they felt in conversation. Visibility carries a deep energy, and energy builds trust. So there was a season when showing up in front of my own brand felt like a performance. I had to have my perfect hair and perfect makeup and perfect lighting and perfect words. It just was a lot of pressure. And I really did believe that the work should speak for itself on its own, fully. And I stayed just behind the curtain. Then life simplified something for me. I stopped aiming for being polished, and I began showing up as I actually moved through my days. Curly hair pulled back, a little bit of makeup, and recording once and letting it stand, speaking in the rhythm I use with clients. The shift was really quite ordinary, but the response was really powerful. So today I have my hair done a little bit because I was at church today. But in many cases, I have frizzy hair, a little bit of makeup. I am who I am. And that is how I'm going to show up. So when you see me out and about or you see me on a podcast, it's the same exact person. There's no performance here. This shift was so ordinary, but the response was really powerful. My message landed so much easier. Conversations felt so much warmer, and trust, I believe, formed way quicker. The brand began holding me instead of me holding the brand. Visibility changed from presentation to just being present in who I was and am. And that is what this chapter is all about. Presence will carry your foundation and your steadiness for the business. Steadiness really does it breeds familiarity. It builds familiarity. And trust creates that momentum to carry your business forward. So when visibility feels so heavy, there is often a layer of translation that I believe is happening. You are filtering yourself to an imagined version of what leadership should look like. You are shaping your voice toward the industry norm. You're adjusting your tone in ways that distance you from your own lived cadence, your own lived experience. That adjustment takes a lot of energy. Energy accumulates across weeks and months, and eventually you feel drained. So when presence reflects your real voice, your natural rhythm, and your lived experience, showing up becomes sustainable. There is neuroscience beneath this that matters deeply. Humans attune to congruence. When someone's language, their tone, their presence, they all align, our nervous systems recognize and register coherence. Coherence feels safety allows them to settle, and attention deepens connection. Congruence cannot be faked for a very long time. Maybe a little bit, but not for a very long time. It has to be lived. Everyone has been talking about authenticity for the last few years on social and every place else. But really what I think it is congruence, that your messaging is actually you, that you know who you are. So I think about Susan. She's one of our clients a few years ago. She is an introverted yarn shop owner in Michigan who came to us during a season when in-store traffic had slowed and online presence felt really intimidating for her. She was a little bit older, so technology was a bit scary, but she loved yarn and she loved texture, and she loved pairing colors in ways that made people's shoulders drop when they saw them. They got excited about the color combination. The idea of becoming louder felt unnatural, like stepping in front of a camera and talking about it felt really unnatural to her. So instead, she went live once a week and spoke the way she speaks to customers in her shop. Soft voice, honest enthusiasm, slow explanations of fiber blends and color combinations. And she held up skeins of yarns to the camera and talked about them like they were old friends. Those bundles of yarn began selling out in seconds. Her visibility reflected who she already was. Her presence carried her voice. People showed up because they recognized something real with her. Visibility only works when it feels like an extension of you rather than some performance layered on top of it. So I see something really important in high-capacity, high-performing founders at this stage. They carry a quiet belief that professionalism requires polish. They believe credibility increases with refinement, and refinement absolutely has its place. But at the same time, humanity builds loyalty. And when your audience sees your lived rhythm, your actual cadence, your real-life decision-making process, they orient towards you far more quickly. Recognition reduces the cognitive friction for people. Reduced friction increases return, and return then builds that trust that is so precious in marketing. The tornado of overwhelm often intensifies visibility anxiety because comparison sits so close to it. Other people moving fast, you see them posting frequently, you see them speaking so loudly and the fast cuts and loud graphics and all these things, and they're just launching visibly. So loud, right? Your body registers the pace. You begin adjusting your own energy upward to match it. But that escalation rarely can be sustained because it's not you. When you are deeply present in your foundation, in your spark, and who you serve, and you're oriented in who you are and oriented towards the client, your presence stabilizes when it matches your own nervous system rather than someone else's highlight reel on Instagram. Inside Wickedly Branded, the Ignite Intensive process focuses heavily on alignment between platform and personality. Some founders write beautifully and think in paragraphs. Some speak naturally and think in conversation. And some teach best through visuals. And some build depth through email. But platform selection shapes your sustainability. Sustainability shapes the repetition that you can offer, and repetition shapes when your clients will feel familiar to your work. And familiarity, again, shapes that trust that is so deeply important. So when we help someone choose their core three, the platform becomes a home rather than the battlefield. Showing up becomes rhythm rather than just a reaction of, oh, it's on my checklist, I must do that today. But I want to offer something really practical here. Open your calendar and look at your next 2 weeks. Where does showing up feel the most natural? So for today, because my hair is already done, my makeup's already done, today on a Sunday was my day. But where does it also feel heavy? Your body often registers alignment before your brain can actually articulate it. So choose one platform where your voice feels the most fluid. If you love to write, then maybe blogging or email marketing is the place for you. If you love to connect and chat, maybe it's LinkedIn and it's podcasting. Choose a platform where your voice feels the most fluid. And choose a frequency that feels the most livable. And choose one theme that reflects your shimmering thread. Return there again and again. Return long enough for people to start to recognize your presence without them having to work too hard. Visibility can carry that cumulative effect if you are consistent in how you show up over and over again. So every post, every email, every episode adds a layer of familiarity for your potential clients. People rarely act on the first exposure. They observe, they return, they listen quietly, and they build internal trust. And then one day they reach out and they say, I have been following you for a while. So that sentence should really feel like it's deep and carry some weight. It means your presence stayed steady long enough to build that recognition and familiarity. This is where Blaze begins to whisper its invitation. Stay visible, stay congruent in your messaging, and stay with the message that feels like you on your clearest, best, amazing day. Inside the book, in the companion workbook, Chapter 4 walks you through visibility your way. It invites you to map the platform, the rhythm, the present intentionally. If this conversation has connected with you, you can grab that revised edition of Marketing for Entrepreneurs on Amazon or download the PDF and workbook through the link in the show notes. And when you do, you'll also join our weekly Marketing Magic newsletter, where we continue unpacking this work in real time and share new podcast episodes. But before we close, I want you to consider something. When you imagine showing up fully as yourself, what shifts in your body? Often it feels like a really deep exhale. That exhale is your signal. Visibility that feels like home can be sustained. Brand magic lives in alignment between identity and language and how you show up, your presence. And when those three move together, momentum builds without force. Next week, we're going to step into chapter 5 and talk about simplicity in marketing and how reducing complexity frees up energy for what actually can compound. But until then, I want you to choose what fits your life and stay with it long enough to see what grows. Wow, what an incredible conversation we just had. I hope that this episode lit a little bit of a fire under you to finally bring your brand to life in a way that feels true to you. Remember, clarity is the spark, but activation is that fire and flame that keeps your message and your visuals and your strategy aligned, and the confidence that follows. So does that lovely thing called momentum that you've been waiting for. So if today's episode, if you loved it, make sure you are subscribed to the Wickedly Branded Marketing Podcast so you never miss an insight or a conversation. Until next time, dare to be wickedly branded.